Ruth lives on $1,620 a month, and she will tell you without flinching that she is not deprived. That's a strange thing to hear, because most retirement money stories are about running short. And here's Ruth, on an income smaller than most, calm at her small kitchen table, saying she has enough. But don't mistake that calm for comfort. Ruth's life isn't easy. It's engineered. Every dollar has a job. Every routine was chosen on purpose. And the whole thing balances on a margin so thin that one ordinary bill can tip it over. Which is exactly what happened the month the dentist handed her an invoice for $238. This is a different kind of retirement story. Not one about a life falling apart. One about a life built small enough to fit a small check. And what happens when that carefully built life gets tested. The question isn't whether Ruth survives. It's what she has to give up to stay who she is. Ruth never married. No divorce, no widowhood, no second income that came and went. Just one person, one income, for a long time. Which means she has been doing this math longer and better than almost anyone. She worked as a school aide and a part-time bookkeeper. Careful work that never paid much. She saved what she could, which wasn't a lot. And when she retired at 65, the number waiting for her was small and clear. Social Security, $1,620 a month, and not much behind it. Here's what makes Ruth different from a lot of people in her spot. She didn't spend her 60s pretending that number was bigger than it was. She sat down, looked at it honestly, and did something most of us never do. She designed a life to fit it, on purpose, before the number could force her hand. That design is the whole story. Because a small income doesn't have to mean a small life. But making that true takes work, and it only holds until something tests it. Let's look at the life Ruth built, in numbers, because the design is in the details. The check is $1,620. Rent is the biggest lever, so she pulled it first. She got into a senior apartment, income adjusted, at $725. That leaves $895. Utilities, $145, down to $750. Groceries, careful and planned, $295. $455. Phone, $45. $410. Prescriptions and co-pays, $85. $325. A bus pass, because she gave up the car on purpose, $60. $265. Household basics, $100. $165. And then the line most people would cut first, and Ruth cuts last. $40 every month in an envelope she calls Joy. Coffee with a friend. A used paperback. A small thing that reminds her she's living, not just surviving. That leaves $125. Not saved. That's the margin. The whole distance between Ruth's designed life and the edge. It works month after month. It works as long as the month behaves. But months do not always behave. If a life built carefully on a small number is something you understand, this channel is for you. Joy per Dollar tells honest retirement money stories. No yachts, no panic, no tax tricks. Just real bills and quiet math. The parts most finance channels skip. If that sounds like your life, subscribe and turn on notifications. Now, back to Ruth's $125, and the month it wasn't enough. The tooth started hurting on a Tuesday. Ruth waited, the way people on a margin learn to wait, hoping it would settle. It didn't. The dentist was kind, and the news was simple. A filling had failed, and fixing it would cost $238. Now, $238 is not a catastrophe. To a lot of people, it's an annoyance. But sit inside Ruth's math for a second. Her whole margin is $125. The bill is almost twice that. Which means this isn't a question of whether it stings. It's a question of what gets cut. Because something has to. This is the part the budget spreadsheets never show. When the margin is smaller than the bill doesn't come out of savings because there aren't any. It comes out of the life. And Ruth, who spent years designing that life piece by piece, now has to decide which piece she can bear to lose. That's the real test, not survival. Ruth was always going to survive. The test is whether the life she built can take a hit and still be the life she chose, or whether one dentist can quietly turn it back into just getting by. So watch what Ruth protects, because this is where you learn what she actually values. The first thing she does is the obvious one. The joy envelope, that $40, doesn't get filled this month. It's the easiest cut, and the one that hurts a specific way, because it's the line that made her feel human instead of managed. But it goes, for now. Then she trims the grocery list. Not to nothing. She's done hungry months and won't do them by choice. But she gets careful in the specific way you get careful when every dollar is spoken for. Store brand, no extras. The list she knows by heart. That covers part of it. For the rest, she does something quietly clever. She calls the dentist's office and asks plainly if she can split the $238 into 2 payments. They say yes, because she asked, which most people are too proud to do. Half now, half next month. And here's the thing she refuses to touch. The bus pass stays. The library card stays. The church basement breakfast on Thursdays, the one where people know her name, stays. Because Ruth figured out something a long time ago. You can cut money from a life and still have a life. But if you cut the things that connect you to other people, you don't have a cheaper life. You have a smaller one. And those are not the same. Let me be honest about what this month actually felt like. Because she managed it is too clean. It was tight in a way that wears on you. No coffee out for 5 weeks is a small thing that feels like a big thing when it's the one small thing you'd kept. Ruth noticed it. She'd tell you she noticed it. She's not a saint who transcended money. She's a woman who got outvoted by a tooth and adjusted. But here's what surprised me about Ruth. She wasn't afraid. A lot of people in her spot are scared, or tired, or quietly grieving the life they thought they'd have. Ruth was just annoyed. The ordinary annoyance of a competent person handling a problem she'd half expected. Because she designed her life knowing a month like this would come. The margin was thin, but it was hers, and she'd already decided what she'd do when it got tested. That's the difference between deprivation and design. Deprivation is when the number happens to you. Design is when you've looked the number in the eye and built something around it on your own terms. Same small check, completely different life. Here's what I want to leave you with, because Ruth's story is the one that complicates this whole series, on purpose. Ruth did not choose the size of her check. Let's be clear about that, because this is not a story about how poverty is fine if you have the right attitude. It isn't. The system handed Ruth a small number, the way it hands a lot of people a small number. That part wasn't her doing, and it wasn't her fault. But what Ruth did with that number is the whole point. She didn't pretend it was bigger. She didn't wait for it to feel like enough. She built a life deliberately shaped to fit it, and she decided in advance which parts of that life she would defend when the math got hard. So when the $238 bill came, it took her coffee for a month. It did not take her dignity, because she'd already decided that wasn't for sale. She wasn't pretending the check was generous. She knew exactly what it couldn't buy. But she also knew what she'd protected: a quiet apartment, a bus route she trusted, a breakfast where people knew her name, and $40 of joy in most months, if not this one. The math was tight. The life was not empty. And that is why she refuses to call it deprivation. So here's my question, and I read every one. If your income got cut to the bone tomorrow, you know what you'd have to give up. But do you know what you'd refuse to? Which parts of your life aren't for sale, even when the math says they should be? Tell me down in the comments, because that answer, more than any number, is the one that decides whether a small month ever becomes a small life.